Welcome to the Secret Love Story channel, where we explore heartfelt stories of love and family together. Today, we embark on a new journey, where every moment of affection and the challenges of family life will be shared truthfully and profoundly. Mrs. Hoa, a woman with a big heart, has devoted her life to caring for her husband, Mr. Min, who became paralyzed from a tragic accident. Everything seemed perfect until an unsettling feeling suddenly arose. Secret glances, hushed whispers, is there something happening behind the closed doors of his home? As trust begins to waver, Mrs. Hoa decides to uncover the truth. What secrets are hidden behind seemingly harmless mysteries? Let's embrace these wonderful emotions together. Clara Wilson, a woman of 68 years, has spent more than 2 decades caring for her paralyzed husband, James. They live in a modest, aging home filled with memories of a happier time. The walls are adorned with faded photographs, snapshots of vacations, celebrations, and a younger, carefree couple. These images are bittersweet reminders for Clara of the life they once had, before a car accident left James seemingly bound to a wheelchair for the last 23 years. Clara is not a stranger to exhaustion. Years of being the primary caregiver have etched lines of fatigue across her face, yet her resilience has never wavered. Every morning, she wakes early to prepare James's meals, administer his medications, and attend to his every need. It's a routine so ingrained in her that she performs these tasks almost automatically, even on days when her body pleads for rest. James Wilson, now 70, is mostly silent. He spends his days in their living room, where Clara has arranged everything within reach: his medications, a glass of water, and a small television to help him pass the time. His world is confined to this room, where the only sounds are the whirring of medical devices and the occasional creaking of the floorboards under Clara's weight. Despite the toll these years have taken on her, Clara is proud of her commitment to James. She could have placed him in a nursing home long ago, but she refused. It was her duty, she believed, to stand by her husband through thick and thin. And so, the years passed in a blur of caregiving and forgotten dreams. However, small details begin to disturb the routine Clara has so carefully maintained. She notices things that don't quite add up, but at first, she brushes them aside, chalking them up to fatigue or forgetfulness. The glass of water on James's bedside table, which she always fills before bed, is sometimes mysteriously half-empty by morning. Occasionally, she hears faint sounds coming from his room at odd hours, but when she checks on him, James is motionless, as always. These inconsistencies gnaw at Clara's mind, but she pushes her suspicions down, unwilling to confront them. After all, what possible explanation could there be? James has been paralyzed for 23 years. He couldn't possibly be moving on his own. Still, the nagging feeling persists, and soon it becomes too strong to ignore. One afternoon, as Clara sits at the kitchen table with her oldest friend, Linda Price, she finds herself voicing the doubts that have been swirling in her head. Linda, a practical and no-nonsense woman, listens intently. "I don't know," Clara says hesitantly. "I keep noticing things. Little things. It's probably nothing, but sometimes I wonder if if he's really as helpless as I thought." Linda raises an eyebrow. "What are you saying, Clara? Do you think James has been moving around without you knowing?" "I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it. But, the water, the noises. I just don't know." Linda is quiet for a moment before responding. "Clara, you've given everything to take care of James. But maybe it's time to think about yourself, too. What if you're not imagining things? You could install a camera, just to ease your mind. That way, you'll know for sure." Clara hesitates. The idea feels invasive, almost like a betrayal. She has devoted her life to James. Installing a hidden camera feels like an act of mistrust. But deep down, she knows something is wrong. Her mind keeps circling back to those small, unsettling moments. What if her instincts are right? What if James is hiding something? Later that night, after Linda has gone home, Clara finds herself pacing the living room, her thoughts racing. Her hands tremble slightly as she considers her options. Could she really go through with it? Her heart tells her no, but her mind won't let it rest. Finally, she makes the decision. Early the next morning, while James is still asleep, Clara discreetly installs a small, hidden camera in the living room, positioning it so it captures the entire space where James spends most of his time. The guilt gnaws at her, but she pushes it aside. This is the only way to put her suspicions to rest. For the next few days, Clara carries on with her routine as usual, though every task is now tinged with anxiety. Each night, as she tucks James into bed and turns off the lights, her mind races, wondering what the camera might capture. She steels herself for the possibility that she's simply imagining things, that the years of caregiving have left her paranoid and exhausted. Finally, after several days of internal turmoil, Clara reviews the footage. She fast-forwards through hours of mundane stillness, James sleeping, the soft hum of the TV, the gentle rustle of the curtains in the breeze. For a moment, she begins to doubt herself, convinced that her suspicions were nothing more than a product of her overworked mind. But then, at exactly 2 a.m., Clara sees something that makes her blood run cold. On the screen, James, the man who had been paralyzed for 23 years, slowly sits up in bed. He stretches, as if waking from a deep, comfortable sleep. He rolls his shoulders and then stands, his movements slow but deliberate, as if he has been doing this in secret for years. Clara's hand flies to her mouth in shock. She rewinds the footage and watches it again and again, unable to believe what she is seeing. James, the man she had devoted her life to caring for, the man who had been confined to a wheelchair for more than 2 decades, was moving, walking, right before her eyes. In that moment, everything changes. The years of sacrifice, the endless hours of caregiving, the life she had given up, it all comes crashing down around her. Her hands tremble as she shuts off the video and stares blankly at the screen. The realization hits her like a tidal wave: James has been faking his paralysis. Clara sits frozen in her chair, her mind reeling. She doesn't know how long she stays there, her eyes fixed on the screen. When she finally moves, it is to grab the phone. She dials Linda's number with shaking hands, her voice trembling as she speaks. "Linda," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "I need you to come over. Now." The betrayal is too much to comprehend alone, and Clara knows she needs someone by her side to face the truth. For days after Clara's shocking discovery, she feels like she's living in a nightmare. Every time she looks at James, lying motionless in his bed, her stomach churns with a mixture of anger and disbelief. The knowledge that he has been faking his paralysis for 23 years is too much to comprehend, and yet she has no choice but to face the truth. She keeps playing the footage over in her mind, James sitting up in bed, stretching, walking. The betrayal runs so deep that Clara barely knows what to feel. Anger? Grief? Exhaustion? Perhaps a mix of all three, swirling inside her and making it hard to think straight. She avoids confronting him immediately. Every time she considers it, her words catch in her throat. What could she even say? That he had stolen 23 years of her life? That he had shattered the trust between them beyond repair? Instead, Clara pours herself into her daily routines, trying to find comfort in the familiar. She prepares James's meals, administers his medications, and goes through the motions of caring for him, all the while wondering how long he has been living this lie. Every action feels heavier, as though the weight of the truth is pressing down on her. And every time she helps him, she wonders how long he has been helping himself when she wasn't looking. One evening, as Clara is setting James's dinner tray on the small table beside his bed, she catches his eyes briefly. For a moment, it feels like James knows that she's aware of his secret, that the illusion is beginning to crumble. His eyes hold hers for just a second too long before he turns his gaze away, resuming his usual blank, distant stare. Clara's hand trembles as she adjusts the tray, her mind racing. She can't take this anymore. The pressure of knowing, the tension of pretending everything is normal, is suffocating her. She needs to confront him, but she's afraid of what he might say, afraid of the truth she already knows. After dinner, Clara retreats to the kitchen and calls Linda again. She needs her friend's support, needs to talk through the storm of emotions that are threatening to consume her. When Linda answers, Clara can barely keep her voice steady as she explains what she saw. "He stood up, Linda," Clara whispers into the phone. "He just got up like nothing was wrong. After all these years." There's a pause on the other end of the line before Linda responds. "Clara, you need to confront him. You can't keep pretending everything is fine." "I know," Clara replies, her voice trembling. "But what if I'm not ready? What if the truth is worse than I can handle?" "You've already seen the truth, Clara," Linda says gently. "There's no going back from this. You need to talk to him, and you need to do it now." Clara knows Linda is right. She can't avoid the confrontation forever, not if she ever wants to find peace. That night, after putting James to bed, she sits in her chair in the living room, the dim light of the lamp casting shadows across the walls. The camera is still hidden in its usual spot, silently recording. She no longer feels the need to watch the footage, it has already shown her everything she needed to know. As the hours tick by, Clara's resolve hardens. She cannot let this go any longer. Tomorrow, she will confront James. Tomorrow, she will demand answers. The next morning, Clara moves through her routine with a quiet determination. She helps James into his wheelchair, her hands steady even though her heart is racing. The weight of the confrontation presses down on her, but she knows she can't delay it any longer. Once James is settled in his chair, Clara takes a deep breath and steps in front of him, her eyes locking onto his. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The tension in the air is thick, almost suffocating. Finally, Clara breaks the silence. "James," she begins, her voice quiet but firm. "I need to ask you something, and I want the truth." James looks up at her, his face expressionless. "What is it, Clara?" She hesitates, her heart pounding in her chest. The words feel heavy, like they're stuck in her throat. But she forces them out, knowing there's no other way forward. "If you find it interesting, please like it. If not, please comment number 1. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video." "I know," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know you've been faking it. I saw you, James. I saw you stand up." For a moment, James doesn't react. He just sits there, staring at her with those same blank eyes. But then, slowly, his expression shifts. It's subtle at first, a tightening of his jaw, a flicker of something in his eyes. But Clara sees it, and she knows that he understands. "I saw everything," she continues, her voice growing stronger. "The camera, it caught you. How long, James? How long have you been lying to me?" The silence that follows is deafening. Clara can hear her own heartbeat, feel the pulse of blood rushing in her ears. And then, finally, James speaks. "I didn't mean for it to go on this long," he says quietly, his voice barely audible. "At first, it was just easier. But then, it got harder to stop." Clara feels a surge of anger rising in her chest. "Easier," she repeats, her voice shaking. "Easier to lie to me for 23 years? Easier to let me give up everything to take care of you?" James lowers his head, unable to meet her eyes. "I didn't know how to stop," he admits. "Once it started, I couldn't go back. You were so devoted. How could I tell you the truth after everything you'd done?" Clara stares at him, her mind reeling. The betrayal cuts deeper than she could have imagined. All these years, she had believed she was doing the right thing, making sacrifices for the man she loved. And all the while, he had been living a lie. "I gave up my life for you," Clara says, her voice trembling with emotion. "My career, my dreams, everything. And you just let me. You let me throw it all away." James doesn't respond. He simply sits there, staring down at his hands, the weight of his guilt hanging heavy in the air. Clara can't stand to look at him any longer. She turns away, her hands shaking as she tries to steady her breathing. I need time, she says finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I need time to think. Without another word, Clara walks out of the room, leaving James sitting in the silence of his own lies. The days following Clara's confrontation with James are an emotional whirlwind. She vacillates between anger, sadness, and disbelief, grappling with the magnitude of his betrayal. The illusion of their life together is shattered, leaving behind a landscape of jagged emotions and unresolved questions. As she moves through her daily routine, every interaction with James feels like a reminder of the lies that have defined their relationship for more than 2 decades. On one particularly restless night, Clara lies awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. The weight of her thoughts presses down on her, making it difficult to breathe. She cannot shake the image of James sitting up in bed, moving freely as if he had never been paralyzed. The very essence of their lives together feels tainted by deception. The pain of his betrayal cuts deep, but the most significant wound is the realization of what she has lost, the years that have slipped away while she believed she was caring for a man in need. Determined to face this head-on, Clara decides it's time to confront James again, but this time, she wants to know the full extent of his deception. It's not enough to hear his apologies, she needs to understand the motivations behind his choices, the reasons he let her believe he was helpless. As the sun rises the next morning, Clara steels herself. She approaches James, who is seated in his wheelchair, staring blankly at the television. The familiar sight of him feels foreign now, tainted by everything she has learned. She takes a deep breath, her heart racing, and prepares to peel back the layers of lies once more. James, she begins, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. I need you to tell me everything. Why did you do this? Why didn't you just tell me the truth? James shifts in his seat, his gaze still fixed on the screen. For a moment, he remains silent, and Clara can feel the tension building between them. Finally, he turns to look at her, and she can see the pain etched across his features. I didn't want to lose you, he says softly. After the accident, everything changed. I felt like I had lost my identity, and I couldn't bear the thought of dragging you down with me. Clara's heart aches at his words, but her anger flares anew. But you did drag me down. You robbed me of my life, James. I dedicated myself to you, to caring for you, and you let me believe that was all I could do. You made me give up my dreams, my career, my entire future. I thought I was protecting you, he replies, his voice trembling. At first, it was just a way to avoid the conversation about starting a family. I thought if I was paralyzed, it would take that pressure off us. But then, as time went on, it became a part of who I was. I couldn't bear to tell you the truth. Clara shakes her head, feeling the tears sting her eyes. You think pretending to be paralyzed was protecting me? You've done nothing but create a prison for both of us. I sacrificed my whole life for a lie. The silence stretches between them, heavy and suffocating. James's eyes glisten with unshed tears as he struggles to find the right words. I didn't know how to stop. I felt trapped in my own deception, and the longer it went on, the harder it became to tell the truth. Clara's anger begins to wane, replaced by a profound sense of loss. The man she loved had not only betrayed her but had also trapped himself in a web of his own making. You could have trusted me, she says, her voice softer now. We could have faced this together. I would have stood by you, no matter what. James looks at her, desperation in his eyes. I know that now. But back then, all I could think about was the fear of losing you. I thought I was doing what was best, but I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Clara. Tears flow freely down Clara's cheeks as she grapples with the weight of his apology. It's not enough, but she knows that the man in front of her is not the same man she thought she knew. The years of deceit have changed him, just as they have changed her. I need time, Clara finally whispers, her voice breaking. Time to figure out what this all means. I can't just pretend everything is okay after what you've done. James nods, his expression filled with sorrow. I understand. I'll give you the space you need. Just know that I never wanted to hurt you, Clara. I wish I could take it all back. Clara turns away, needing to put distance between them, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. She retreats to the living room, feeling as though she's been shattered into a million pieces. The reality of her situation crashes down around her. She had invested so much in their life together, believing it was a partnership built on love and trust. Now, everything felt hollow. As she sinks into the couch, Clara reflects on the years that have passed. The dreams she had put on hold, the ambitions she had set aside, all sacrificed for a man who had, in many ways, betrayed her trust in the most profound manner. The thought of starting over, of reclaiming her identity, both excites and terrifies her. Days turn into weeks, and the emotional turmoil doesn't let up. Clara continues to care for James, but her heart is no longer fully in it. Each time she helps him, she's reminded of the lies that have clouded their lives. There's a new distance between them, one that she can feel in every interaction. The tender moments they once shared have been replaced by a cold reality, one filled with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. During this time, Clara starts exploring ways to rediscover herself outside of caregiving. With Linda's encouragement, she signs up for an art class at a local community center. Painting had once been a passion of hers, a way to express herself and escape the pressures of daily life. It had been years since she last picked up a brush, and she feels a sense of nervous excitement as she contemplates diving back into that world. On the first day of class, Clara walks into the bright studio, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The walls are adorned with colorful paintings, and the smell of paint fills the air. As she sets up her easel, she can't help but feel a twinge of hope, a glimmer of something that had been missing for so long. The instructor, a lively woman named Marissa, greets the class with enthusiasm, encouraging everyone to embrace their creativity without fear of judgment. Clara listens, feeling a sense of camaraderie with the other students, all of whom seem to be on their own journeys of self-discovery. As the class begins, Clara allows herself to become lost in the process of painting. Each brushstroke feels liberating, a release of pent-up emotions she hadn't realized she was carrying. The colors blend together on the canvas, and for the first time in a long while, Clara feels a spark of joy. Yet, as she immerses herself in her artwork, her thoughts drift back to James. It's impossible to separate herself completely from the life they've built together, even as she begins to carve out her own space. She knows that the road ahead will be challenging, filled with the weight of their shared history and the burden of his betrayal. Clara returns home after her first class feeling invigorated but conflicted. She knows she cannot fully move forward until she addresses the emotional fallout of her relationship with James. It's a journey she has to undertake, one that will require strength and resilience. That evening, as she prepares dinner, Clara glances over at James, who is sitting quietly in his wheelchair. The tension in the room is palpable, a silent acknowledgement of the chasm that now exists between them. She realizes that while she may be beginning to reclaim her life, James is still trapped in his own prison, one of his own making. Determined to forge a new path, Clara decides it's time to have another conversation with him. She cannot move forward without addressing the past, and she knows that honesty is the only way to break the cycle of pain they've both endured. As she sets the table, Clara takes a deep breath, steeling herself for the difficult conversation ahead. She knows it won't be easy, but she can no longer live in the shadows of deceit. It's time to face the truth, no matter how painful it may be. Clara spends the next few days grappling with her emotions, a turbulent mix of anger, sadness, and a newfound resolve. She knows that if she wants to reclaim her life and her identity, she must confront James again. The weight of their shared history hangs heavily in the air, but the time has come to address the deep chasm that lies between them. One evening, after a long day filled with art class and painting, Clara returns home, feeling a sense of purpose. She finds James in his usual spot in the living room, staring blankly at the television. The familiar sight strikes a chord deep within her, and she feels a mix of compassion and frustration. This is the man she has devoted her life to, yet he is also the source of her pain. "James," she begins, her voice steady yet gentle. "We need to talk." James turns to her, the weariness in his eyes evident. "About what?" About us, Clara replies, taking a seat across from him. About everything that's happened. I can't keep pretending that things are normal. He nods slowly, and she can see the tension in his posture. Clara takes a deep breath, feeling the heaviness of the moment. I've been thinking a lot about what you told me. About how you felt trapped in your lies. James looks down, his hands resting in his lap. I was scared, Clara. I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I thought if I just kept pretending, things would eventually get better. But they didn't, did they? Clara presses, her voice firm but not unkind. You let this lie define us for over 2 decades. You took away my choice to support you, to help you in a way that was real. And in doing so, you made me feel like I was losing myself. James's eyes well up with tears as he absorbs her words. I see that now. I didn't realize how selfish I had been. I was so caught up in my own fears that I didn't consider how my actions affected you. I'm so sorry. Clara can feel her heart softening, but the pain is still fresh. Your apologies can't change the past, James. I gave up my life to care for you, and now I need to find a way to care for myself. I can't continue this way. Silence stretches between them, filled with unspoken emotions and realizations. Finally, Clara continues, I think it's time for you to take responsibility for your own life. You need to start caring for yourself. I can't be your caretaker anymore. It's time for both of us to take a step back and reevaluate our lives. James looks up at her, his expression a mix of sadness and understanding. I know you're right. I've relied on you for too long. I've let my fears dictate my actions. But where do we go from here? Clara takes a moment to gather her thoughts. I think we should start by moving you into the guest room. It's time for you to have your own space and to begin working on regaining your mobility. I can't help you if you're not willing to help yourself. James's face falls, the weight of her words settling in. You really think I can do it? I believe you can, Clara replies, her voice firm. But it has to come from you. I can't force you to change, but I can't enable the situation anymore. We both deserve to find a new path forward. The discussion weighs heavily in the air, but Clara feels a sense of relief. It's a step toward healing, not just for her but for James as well. They sit in silence for a moment, both processing the enormity of the conversation. Finally, James speaks. I'll do it. I'll move into the guest room and start working on my mobility. I want to prove to you that I can change. Clara nods, feeling a mixture of hope and apprehension. I want to believe you, James. But it will take time. It will take effort, and it will take trust. I understand, he says quietly. I know I have a long way to go. As the days pass, Clara and James begin to navigate this new chapter in their lives. James moves into the guest room, and Clara can't help but feel a sense of bittersweet freedom. It's a reminder that they are both capable of change, but also a stark acknowledgement of the distance that still exists between them. Clara continues to attend her art classes, immersing herself in her creative pursuits. Each brushstroke brings her a sense of joy and relief, a way to express the emotions that have been bottled up inside her for so long. She begins to rediscover the parts of herself that she thought she had lost, exploring new friendships and connections with others who share her passion for art. In the evenings, Clara often finds herself in the living room, painting while James sits nearby. Their interactions are tentative at first, filled with a mixture of awkwardness and hope. Clara can see the effort James is putting in, and while it doesn't erase the past, it offers a glimpse of a future where they can rebuild their lives. One night, as Clara finishes a painting, James watches her intently. You've always been so talented, he says, his voice filled with admiration. I'm glad you're pursuing this. She looks up, surprised by the sincerity in his words. Thank you. It means a lot to me that you can see that. Maybe I can try painting too, he suggests hesitantly. I've always wanted to express myself, but I didn't know how. Clara's heart warms at his willingness to explore new avenues. I'd love to help you with that, she replies, a smile spreading across her face. "We can set up an easel in here." As the weeks unfold, they establish a new rhythm in their lives. James starts to regain some of his mobility, working diligently on exercises and physical therapy, motivated by Clara's support. Clara, in turn, embraces her art, finding solace and joy in the creative process. One evening, as they sit together in the living room, James takes a deep breath. "Clara, I want to thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful you're still here." Clara looks at him, the sincerity in his eyes touching her heart. "I'm grateful too, James. We both have a long journey ahead, but I believe we can figure it out together. We can be better, individually and as friends." As they share this moment, Clara feels a flicker of hope ignite within her. It won't be easy, but they are both committed to moving forward, to redefining their relationship, and to learning how to navigate this new terrain. The road ahead may be uncertain, but they are no longer bound by the weight of deception. They are free to explore their own paths, and in that freedom lies the potential for healing and growth. The next day, Clara invites Linda over for dinner, eager to share the progress they've made. As they sit around the table, Clara recounts how James has started to regain his mobility and how she has been rediscovering her passion for art. Linda listens intently, offering encouragement and support. "I'm proud of both of you," Linda says, her eyes shining with warmth. "This is a huge step forward. It takes a lot of courage to face the truth and make changes." Clara nods, feeling the weight of Linda's words. "It's still a work in progress, but I believe we're on the right path." As the evening unfolds, Clara and Linda share laughter and stories, the warmth of friendship enveloping them. It's a reminder of the life Clara once had, the one filled with laughter, dreams, and the love of a friend. It also serves as a reminder of the strength she possesses, the resilience that has carried her through the darkest of times. As Clara reflects on the changes in her life, she feels a renewed sense of purpose. While the scars of betrayal may linger, they no longer define her. She is learning to embrace her own identity while also finding a way to support James as he takes his first steps toward independence. Each day, they continue to rebuild their lives, navigating the complexities of their relationship with honesty and determination. The past may have left its mark, but Clara knows that the future holds promise, one filled with opportunities for growth, healing, and ultimately, redemption for both of them. As Clara and James continue to navigate their new realities, the days turn into months. The journey of healing is not linear, it's filled with setbacks and triumphs, moments of despair interspersed with glimpses of hope. Clara finds herself growing stronger, embracing the rediscovery of her passions, while James embarks on a path of self-empowerment that both terrifies and excites him. Clara dedicates more time to her art, allowing herself to explore her emotions through her brushstrokes. The community center's art class becomes a sanctuary for her, a place where she can express the turmoil she once bottled up inside. Each piece she creates reflects not only her struggles but also her growth. Friends she's made through the class provide encouragement and validation, reinforcing her belief in her own capabilities. Meanwhile, James works tirelessly on his physical therapy. He faces the challenges head-on, determined to regain his mobility and independence. There are days filled with frustration, where his body doesn't respond as he hopes it would, but Clara is there to support him. She cheers for every small victory, reminding him of the progress he's made, even when he feels like giving up. Their bond begins to shift from one of caregiver and dependent to a more equal partnership, built on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, as Clara prepares dinner, she overhears James in the guest room. He's watching a video about art and physical therapy, his enthusiasm palpable even from a distance. She feels a warm swell of pride in her chest. It's a stark contrast to the man who once let fear dictate his every decision. Clara decides then that it's time to further their relationship, not as husband and wife in the traditional sense but as two people rediscovering who they are individually and together. After dinner, Clara approaches James. "How would you feel about taking a painting class together?" she asks, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I think it could be a great way for both of us to explore our creativity." James looks up, surprise flickering across his face. You really want to do that with me? Absolutely. It might help you channel your emotions while you work on your mobility. Plus, I think it could be fun. He smiles, a genuine expression that warms Clara's heart. I'd love that. It's time for me to try new things, and painting sounds like a perfect start. In the following weeks, they enroll in a painting class together. It's a thrilling experience for both of them, filled with laughter and learning. Clara guides James as he hesitantly picks up a brush, encouraging him to let go of his self-doubt. The classroom is alive with colors and creativity, and as they create side by side, a new layer of their relationship blossoms. The connection between them evolves as they share their vulnerabilities and aspirations. James expresses his fear of not being enough, of being a burden to Clara. I want to be someone you can rely on, not someone you have to take care of, he confesses during one class. Clara reaches for his hand, squeezing it gently. You already are. You're taking steps to change, and that takes strength. We're in this together, and I believe in you. Their conversations deepen, moving beyond the surface-level exchanges that once defined their relationship. They share dreams they had once shelved, aspirations that were lost in the shadows of fear and guilt. James talks about wanting to travel again, to see places he had long forgotten. Clara shares her desire to hold a gallery showing for her artwork, to share her journey with others. With each passing week, they grow closer, learning to lean on each other in ways they never had before. Clara begins to see glimpses of the man she fell in love with all those years ago, his laughter, his passion for life, his unwavering spirit. The layers of resentment start to peel away, replaced by understanding and empathy. Yet, the process of rebuilding is not without its challenges. Clara still struggles with feelings of betrayal. There are nights when memories of the past creep into her thoughts, reminding her of the years lost to deception. But James, aware of her struggles, remains patient and supportive. He listens to her fears, never shying away from the discomfort of their past. Instead, he confronts it head-on, validating her feelings and reassuring her of his commitment to change. As spring gives way to summer, Clara decides it's time for a much-needed getaway. She suggests a weekend trip to a nearby coastal town, a place where they can both unwind and reconnect without the burdens of daily life. James eagerly agrees, and they plan their escape together, filling the itinerary with activities that excite them both. On the drive to the coast, Clara feels a sense of liberation washing over her. The road stretches out before them, symbolizing the journey they've embarked on. She glances over at James, who is smiling and animatedly pointing out sights along the way. It's a refreshing change, and for the first time in a long while, she feels lighthearted. Once they arrive, the fresh sea breeze invigorates Clara's spirit. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore washes over her, a soothing balm for her soul. They spend the weekend exploring quaint shops, dining at seaside restaurants, and painting on the beach. Each moment is filled with laughter, a stark contrast to the heaviness of their past. One evening, as the sun sets over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara and James find a quiet spot on the sand. They set up their easels, each capturing the beauty of the moment on canvas. Clara glances over at James, who is lost in his work, the joy of creativity evident in his expression. As they finish their paintings, Clara turns to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. I can't believe how far we've come, she says, her voice filled with emotion. You're doing incredible things, James. I'm proud of you. He smiles, his eyes sparkling with appreciation. I couldn't have done this without you. Your support means everything to me. The sun dips below the horizon, casting a golden glow around them. Clara feels a sense of peace wash over her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. They sit in companionable silence, letting the beauty of the moment wash over them, both knowing that this is just the beginning of a new chapter. As the weekend comes to an end, Clara and James return home with a renewed sense of purpose. They've begun to forge a new relationship built on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. The road ahead remains uncertain, but they are committed to navigating it together, side by side. Back in their home, Clara continues to paint and explore her creativity, while James focuses on his physical therapy. Their bond deepens as they support each other in their respective journeys. The past may always be a part of them, but it no longer holds the power it once did. With each passing day, Clara learns to prioritize her own needs, understanding that her happiness is essential not just for her but for James as well. She embraces her independence while remaining a steadfast support for him as he works to reclaim his life. James, in turn, makes strides toward becoming the man Clara always believed he could be. He discovers new hobbies and interests, forging connections with others in the community who inspire him to push beyond his limits. As the seasons change, so do they. Together, they navigate the complexities of life, finding joy in the small moments and celebrating their victories, no matter how minor. In time, Clara plans an art exhibit to showcase her work. As she prepares for the event, she feels a sense of pride in what she has accomplished. It's not just about the art, it's a testament to her journey of self-discovery and healing. James supports her every step of the way, helping to arrange the space and inviting friends and family to join in the celebration. On the day of the exhibit, Clara stands amidst her paintings, surrounded by loved ones who have come to support her. She glances at James, who is mingling with guests, his smile genuine and proud. The warmth of their connection envelopes her, a reminder of how far they've come together. As the evening unfolds, Clara realizes that this moment is not just about showcasing her art but also about celebrating their resilience and commitment to growth. They may have started from a place of betrayal, but they are now forging a path toward healing and understanding. With newfound hope and determination, Clara and James embrace the uncertainty of the future. They are not defined by their past but by their willingness to grow, change, and support one another. Together, they step into a new beginning, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. The journey may be long, but they are no longer afraid. Together, they can navigate the road toward a brighter, more authentic future. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.